Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. My guests tonight include Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon and James Stewart, all right? Then there's Yul Brynner, Henry Fonda and John Wayne. And if that's not enough superstars, how about Kirk Douglas, Orson Welles, oh, and I nearly forgot, James Cagney and Robert Redford. They're on the show too. It's an all-star lineup celebrating some of the Hollywood superstars we talked to over the years. Let's start with Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, remembering Marilyn Monroe, and Kirk Douglas and James Stewart recalling their fathers. You did, of course, and still do, for all I know, a marvellous impersonation of Cary Grant.
No, you always do Cary Grant.
That's right, yeah.
Everywhere I go. As a matter of fact, I think everybody does Cary Grant.
You did him in Some Like It
Yes,
Hot. It was one of my favourite movies.
Yeah, thank you.
That was a super film. Wait, you're starting with
Marilyn,
with
yes.
Marilyn.
Monroe, Jack Lemmon, Joey Brown.
How was Marilyn?
She was very, very difficult.
Was she?
Yeah, really. Really, very difficult working.
Why?
Her personal madnesses were so destructive that it made her unhappy and anyone that surrounded her. Consequently, it cost her her life. And it had nothing to do with the picture business.
You think not? Do you
Not
think
at
no
all.
matter what she'd
Not
have
at
done,
all.
she'd have destroyed herself?
Dear Marilyn was a fruitcake,
Yeah.
to coin Dear Patrick. You know? And a fruitcake caught in an environment, in an establishment, in a system, in a society, call it what you will, that demanded certain things from her that she was not capable of giving.
Yes.
Don't you see?
Yeah.
The fact that she was a very beautiful woman and had an interesting quality about her only enhanced, I think, that tragedy. Because if she hadn't been, people would have left her alone and somebody to put her away somewhere, or she'd have been settled down someplace where these terrible tensions and drives and power struggles would have just bypassed her, don't you see?
Mm.
Consequently, she made her life and everyone else surrounding her miserable.
Mm.
Billy Wilder, who directed Some Like It Hot, said she was a mean 7-year-old girl. And I've got a feeling that's about as good a description of Marilyn as
Yes.
any, you know?
Yes.
And, well, she, you know, she could bring to a scene a lot of power. See, she had a lot of power,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
But it was difficult for her to put them together, to make moments last, you know?
Yes.
Takes would be 35 and 40 takes for one
Good
line
boy.
or two lines. And Billy Wilder said to Jack Lemmon and I when we started the picture, he said, now look, he says, soon as Marilyn gets it right, whenever, he said, that's the shot I'm gonna print. He said, you guys better know what you're doing. Don't be caught with your finger in your ear. Well, Lemmon and I would get in the morning at 7:38 in the morning. We'd get in our trusses, get in our silk stockings, get in all the undergarments, into the makeup department, 45 minutes makeup, 25, 30 minutes hairdressing. By the time we got done, it was 2.5 hours. We'd get on the set, ready to shoot at 9, and she wouldn't show up till 11:30, 12. And there we were in these shoes. And we tried to find places to sit down, kick off our shoes, put them on. You know, we had to stay like that all day long. And then finally, Marilyn would show up. And we'd go and rehearse it a couple of times. And she'd say, I'm ready. Well, we had to do it. You know, we'd come clobbering in, trying to get our makeup in order, because we have to look fresh. And we've been like that now for 12 hours or something. Ridiculous one, you know. And we'd do the scene, and Jack, in one of the takes, tripped. Just stumbled. Well, we printed it. Marilyn came in, did it right, and he said, cut, print. Lemmon said, I swear. He said, do it.
She had an unbelievable built-in kind of alarm clock that would go off when a scene wasn't right for her, and she would just stop, and which is very unusual. Usually you don't ever stop unless a director says cut. A director may stop a scene, but it's very seldom that an actor, unless they've blown the lines, will stop and say, oh, I'm sorry. But Marilyn would just do it. She would stop if it wasn't going right for her. She just somehow had that instinct, you see, about herself. Well, that drove Tony absolutely fruitcake. And he couldn't stand it. So then he'd get uptight, you know. It was one of those things. I found her totally fascinating, but I must say, and we got along famously, but I would never be able to say I really knew her, because you could get just so close to Marilyn, and then she'd kind of go inside, you know. She'd cut you off. She wouldn't let you get too close to her. I'm sure she naturally had some very close friends where that was not so, but I could never get too close to her, even though I know she was fond of me, and we got along, as I said, very famously. But she was, there was an innate sadness about her.
Your friend,
that I found.
he mentioned this actually. He said there was a
Yes.
sense of tragedy about her.
Absolutely. She was an unhappy girl.
Well, let's look at her actually in a happy moment from that absolutely superb movie. It really is one of my favourite comedies of all time, and it's a sequence between you and Marilyn, and you're a very lucky fellow. Well, you're a woman, in fact, in this film.
Your head's hot.
Ridiculous.
You've got cold feet.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Here, let me warm you up a little. There. Isn't that better?
Yes, I'm a girl. I'm a girl. I'm a girl.
What'd you say?
I'm a very sick girl.
Oh, I better go before I catch something.
I'm not that sick.
I've got very low resistance.
Oh, well, sugar. If you feel that you're coming down with something, my dear, the best thing in the world is a shot of whiskey.
You got some?
I don't want to get it. Don't move. Hold on.
Okay.
Up now.
Actually, I think if I'd have been playing with Marilyn Monroe in that bed scene, the initial sequence there, that I'd have been glad it took 30-odd takes,
Now,
actually.
you know something? That whole first long thing was the first take. Just to show you how things can happen. And it totally shocked me. It was the first take, straight through. Billy said, print, and she said, I loved it too. And I thought, what happened? Because I was ready to go all day. And it's lucky I got all the words right, because I had learned to kind of pace myself with Marilyn, so you don't go by it. Don't end up just exhausted and with your energy level way down as she began to, you know, pull it all together. Because the day before, we had gone like 37 takes, and she had exactly 2 lines. Good. Where she walked in and said, where's that bourbon? Oh, there it is. But it didn't feel right for her, you see. And we went 37 takes. And next morning, we came in, did the whole upper berth thing, that whole first take before he goes down to get the booze, in one. And she had it in the first crack, so you never know.
Did you base it, actually, on any woman at all? You may be honest on this.
No, but I'll tell you something very funny that I realized shortly afterwards. Once we had gotten the makeup right and everything, and had gotten the hair right, my mother came to the set to visit us. And I suddenly stood beside, and there was one of those wardrobe mirrors, and we both were there, and I looked, and my God, I looked just like her.
Looking actually at your life story, it occurs to me that no Hollywood scriptwriter could ever invent it. Have you ever thought of making a film about your life?
Well, no, not really. As a matter of fact, I once did an article, My Life is a B script. And I think it is. You know, I sometimes think that if you want to tell the truth, you write a novel. If you really want to lie, you write a biography. Because, well, I mean, it would be difficult. That's not like most statements. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's difficult to tell the exact truth. And my own thing, as you started to indicate at the beginning, I almost heard the violins playing, the poor boy, from the depths of poverty he rose to become champion, you know, and the violins are playing. It's sort of corny, but in my country, and by the way, it's interesting because we both have accents, don't we? What is your...
Mine's a Yorkshire accent.
Yorkshire accent.
Yeah, non-country.
And I have, of course you wouldn't guess it, but I have an American accent. No, but as you were saying at the beginning, you know, my story is so typical of so many people in the United States,
yes.
You know, who come from immigrant parents, and you sort of work your way through college, and you go to dramatic school, and you are fortunate enough to go into the kind of work that you'd like to do, and it's sort of what I call a corny American story.
But nonetheless true. I mean, there's poor and poor, isn't there? There's poverty and poverty. Well, I mean, how poor were you?
Well, my wife once said to me, you know, Kirk, one of these days you're going to be shattered because you might meet someone who is poorer than you. But, yes, I came from, I guess, Michael, what you'd call abject poverty. if not having enough to eat, you know, days where you didn't have food. I guess that's poor.
Yes. But you were the only boy, weren't you, in a family of 6 girls?
That's right.
I don't envy you that.
Make something of that.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you to make something of that.
Well, of course, I think that's quite difficult. You know, I not only had 6 sisters and my mother, that's 7 women, but my father and mother separated at an early age, and that left me with 7 women, which I think was a very difficult upbringing, and I found going to college was really a form of escape. I found the environment really kind of smothering.
Yes.
And, you know, I had mixed feelings. Why did I leave my father, who, by the way, was quite a character. He was a very powerful man, a peasant. He also drank a lot, which I think is a form of escape. And I've often thought that one of the bravest moments in my life was one day I was just I don't know, I was about 10 years old. We were all sitting around the table, my 6 sisters, my mother and I. And my father was sitting, one of the rare moments that he was with us, and we were drinking tea, in that time, out of a glass, Russian style, you know, and my father was breaking off a piece of sugar and sipping the tea through, and everybody was frightened of him. He was just overpowering, and I mean, he was in a mean mood. And I don't know why, suddenly I took a spoon, and I took it filled it with the hot tea, and I flicked it right in his face. Well, I tell you, he grabbed me and he threw me, but I just felt I did it, you know, and it sounds strange, but that is so vivid in my mind, and it's almost like an act that I feel saved me, that I dared to do something. Yeah. And when you're that young, you think, you know, you actually think you're risking your life.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So it's strange. I don't know what made me think of that.
No, I'm glad you did. It's a very, very revealing story.
Yes. What was your father's reaction, though, to the period when you became a very big film star and famous? I mean, I presume people used to go around there and say, "Are you Jimmy Stewart's dad?"
Yes, he didn't like that at all. He liked the idea of the movies. The windows of the hardware store were filled with stills from pictures I did. He liked that idea. The night I won the Academy Award, he called me and said, "Send the award and I'll put it in the window," which I did. And it was there for the rest of the time until he died. It wasn't in the window all the time. It was, I don't know whether you know the old-fashioned hardware store. The first thing that you see when you enter a hardware store is the knife counter. That's sort of the basic thing of the hardware. Well, my Oscar was on top of the knife counter and was there for, 20 years. He put it under a cheese bell, which I thought was sort of... But going back to what you said about that the thing, when people came in and said, "We'd like to see Jimmy Stewart's father," this didn't appeal to him. And he had a man, the name of Andy, who worked for him. And Andy was not a young man, not always a sober man, and not particularly a good worker, or rather a lazy man. Slept a lot, and usually it was back behind in the store and sleeping in a chair behind a pot-bellied stove in the back of the store. And my father worked this thing out about when people came in and said, "We'd like to see Jimmy Stewart's dad." He'd take them back and show him Andy and say, "There he is." It's a sad case, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Not always a sober man. I love that line. Orson Welles was a mighty man in every way. He was one of the greatest talents to have worked in Hollywood. I think he was one of the most fascinating men I ever encountered. He sets the tone for this next batch of interviews with an appraisal of Hollywood and one of its everlasting stars.
When you look back, I mean, are you nostalgic about those days, or are they were they just comic relief?
I loved them.
Did you?
You know. I thought it was great, you
Really?
know? So I never belonged to it. You see, when I came, I was this terrible maverick that they all You know, I was sort of the, you know, 40 or 30 years ahead of my time, whatever it is. There was a sort of ghost of a Christmas future. There was the one beatnik. You know, there was this guy with a beard who was going to do it all by himself. You know, I represented the terrible future of what was going to happen to that town. So I was hated and despised, theoretically, but I had all kinds of friends among the real dinosaurs who were awfully nice to me.
Really?
Yes, and I had a very good time. But I believe that I have looked back too optimistically on Hollywood, because my daughter has a group of books about Hollywood that she bought. I don't know why, probably vainly looking for references of her father in them. And I took to reading them lately, and I realized how many great people that town has destroyed since its earliest beginnings. How almost everybody of merit was destroyed or diminished, and how the few people who were good who survived, what a great minority they were. And I suddenly thought to myself, why do I look so affectionately on that town? It was because it was funny, and it was gay, and it was an old-fashioned circus, and everything that we're nostalgic about. Made it funny and gay when it was really happening.
Yes.
But really it was a brutal place.
Yes.
And when I take my own life out of it and see what they did to other people, I see that the story of that town is a dirty one, and its record is bad.
Yes. And what about the stars, the great stars they had in those days that, I mean, people always say we don't have nowadays?
Well, we don't.
We don't, that's
No.
true, because they're not processed in the way that they used to.
I don't think that they don't exist.
They don't exist?
They don't exist.
Well, why is that? Why should
Because
that
they
be?
exist, they're singers. In the old days, the greatest thing in the world to be was a movie star.
Yes.
Today, the greatest thing in the world is to be a pop singer. There will never be a great star unless the greatest thing in the world to be is that kind of star.
I see.
At the end of the last century and before the First World War, the greatest thing in the world to be was an opera singer.
Yes.
And people used to faint in the streets when they saw an opera singer. And then there came the movie stars. I think, you see, I think any form of entertainment only exists because it corresponds to a moment in time, you know? So that, of course, there are actors who are as good or as remarkable or
Yes.
as space-displacing or whatever,
Yes.
however you want to describe a star.
Yes.
But the world doesn't think being a movie star is the everlasting end.
No.
And it
No.
used to, and that's why
That's
they
right.
don't exist.
That's right. I was going to ask you, in effect, it brought us right back to the beginning of our conversation. Were they, in fact, just great stars, or were they just part of an illusion?
They were great. They were great. I think that Keaton and Garbo, my goodness, Cagney. I won't talk about Bogart because everybody does. I loved him very much, but I think we can get along without talking about Bogart for about 3 years, and his shade will be relieved.
Yes.
But Cagney, in my view, was maybe the greatest actor who ever appeared in front of the camera.
Really?
Yes.
James Cagney?
Yes.
Why was that? What makes you say
First of all, he broke every rule about movie acting. You see, the first thing that every stage actor says is, I learned to act to the camera because you have to do less. You can't do laddie what you do at the National Theater. You have to act for the camera and so on. Cagney came on as though we were playing to an audience of 4,500 people. He acted at the top of his bent, and he never hammed for one moment, thus proving my point that hamming is not overacting. It is false acting. It's fakery.
Yeah.
And there's not a fake minute in a Cagney movie. Please have a season of him.
Yeah.
And study what he was.
In fact, I was thinking the other day about the people I haven't interviewed who I'd love to, and I think he'd come somewhere.
He won't come.
I know.
He won't come. He won't.
Complete recluse now, isn't he?
Yes. Well, no, but he won't come in front of a camera.
I think you can safely assume that you're among friends.
Nice to know.
It is, isn't it? Well,
Really?
that's the kind of reception that only special stars get.
That's good to hear.
It is, isn't it? Yes. Tell me, I must ask you, it's the question that anybody who meets you must ask you. Did you ever say, "You dirty rat"?
Never.
You
Not
never...
that I remember, no.
You didn't?
No, I kind of assumed that I must have suggested it somewhere along the line. But I do think that the Dead End kids picked it up.
Did they?
And they popularized it. I think this is true.
And what also, because you're the most imitated man in the world, I would imagine, what about the mannerisms, the sort of shoulder?
Well, all those things, see, in vaudeville, you try to give the people something to go home with. And this thing that I did was something that I saw a fellow on 78th Street and First Avenue do, ages ago. And that's all he did. He never worked for a living. He had a stable.
Well, he made a living out of doing that.
Oh, yes. Yes, truly.
Really?
Yeah.
No dialogue at all with it?
Hmm?
No dialogue? Did he say anything?
No, that's all.
He's got a better job than I have. The allegation here, too, in the article is that you don't have a sense of humor at all. You're a very somber man without humor. And the example here is of a practical joke that Paul Newman played on you, which apparently you did not see the humor of. Now, I know, in fact, the opposite to be true, so could you tell us that story?
The story behind that is that Paul and I have done a couple of films together, and we played jokes on one another, and he's obsessed with racing. And he would get so boring talking about racing that sometimes I just couldn't take it. And so on his 50th birthday in Connecticut, we had homes that weren't so far from each other. I was renting a home in Connecticut, and he had lived there for quite a few years. I found an old wrecked Porsche, 1964 Porsche that had been completely demolished. And so I had the thing wrapped up. I bought it, had it wrapped up, and delivered to his back door as a 50th birthday present. And then walked away from it, and then waited to hear, okay? And he didn't say anything. About 3 weeks later, I came to my house, and in the foyer of the house was this huge package. I mean, huge, really huge. And I opened it, I uncrated it, and it was this gigantic block of metal that had been melted down from an old wrecked car. And so I thought, okay, now I like that. I thought that was really good. So I didn't mention it to him. I couldn't get it out of the house either. And so I just let it sit there for weeks on end. Finally, he couldn't take it, and I would see him from time to time. We'd see each other socially, our families would get together. And finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He said, "Say, you have been to the house." And I said, "I've been to the house," and he said, "Anything different there?" And I said, "No, why?" "Oh, the basement was leaking." And he said, "Nothing else?" I said, "No, no." And it drove him crazy. So he then went to the people who had delivered the thing at some great cost. It cost, like, I think about $75 just to deliver this thing. I then made arrangements to have this wrecking company come and take it out of the house. I then had it melted down further and hired a sculptor to do a piece of garden sculpture and had it delivered back to his garden. As far as I know, that's where it still is now. It may end up as a ring on somebody's finger. But that's the true story behind it. I don't know what...
But, I mean, I wonder, you see, the problem, it seems to me, with you for changing direction is how on earth that you persuade people that you're not Robert Redford's superstar. I mean, isn't that going to be...
I can think of a lot of ways.
But, I mean, well, what about street reaction to you? I mean,
Well, it varies from a freak out to total ignoring me, so that I have to tap somebody in the shoulder and say, "Excuse me, do you know who I am?" I had the reaction I liked the most, actually, or the one that made me feel curiously the best. I guess it reminded me of my reactions when I was younger, and set me straight. I have some pretty good friends who set me straight, and my kids set me straight, but this one really set me straight. I was in Beverly Hills, which is unreal enough as it is, and I was walking across the street, and I went to step off the curb, and this car comes rolling by full of young teenagers, right? And they spot me as I'm ready to cross the street, and the car slows down. I thought, oh, here it comes. And they're rolling, they're screaming and clawing to get at the windows, to roll the windows down. And finally they get the window down as the car rolls by, and the guy yells out, "Robert Redford!" And I said, "Hey." And he said, "You are such an asshole." I kept on going. Okay. That was all right.
The 70s were a good time to do a talk show. Many of the great stars from the golden age of Hollywood were still around. And they were at a time of life when reminiscing seemed the natural thing to do. We're going to meet three of them now: Henry Fonda, John Wayne, and James Stewart, with a topic set by a comparative newcomer, Yul Brynner, who was talking about his part in The Magnificent Seven.
There is something exciting about the man with the gun, in Westerns. Yet there's something sort of disturbing about it too, isn't there? It's,
well, what is disturbing is the misuse of the Western, because you see, a Western like this one is really, like somebody said to me, "What is the man you're playing? What describe to me in a few words your character?" So I say, he's just a dirty bum. There are only two clean things about him: his gun and his soul. And that's really what makes a Western. Your hero has to be just like that. And unfortunately, instead of violent action, such as, let's say, we have in Catlow, we have really violent action.
This is your new movie, which
this is the new movie
yeah.
which invited me to come to London.
Yes.
And you have all the violent action, but you don't have that thing that I consider very dangerous, which is completely gratuitous violence that is done for the violence's sake, that several movie makers indulge in, and I cannot respect or admire it, and I fear it. Because the minute you start treating human life as something totally unimportant, that you just snap off for the sake of a shot, for the sake of a gesture with a gun, you're in an awful lot of trouble.
Do you think that that kind of violence breeds violence? That
Of
the
course,
response
of
from
course.
You're sure of that?
I think it breeds. I think it is. Look, what are we doing in this business? We're creating contagion. That is my job. Is to what do the Magnificent Seven do? The guys who are playing the Seven is create a contagion in the audience. That's what makes success. Is because they're really contagious. Their illusion that they create, that they share with the audience, is contagious. Well, I think that the violence is also contagious. I mean, or the lack of respect for human life can be very contagious. And minds that are not necessarily very well balanced could be influenced and are influenced every day. And that is why I'm very much against the kind of cheap, easy violence, cheap, easy kill, whether it is for human beings or for animals.
But your responsibility on this theme as a filmmaker then is not to, as you would see it, not to join this sort of current trend toward gross violence. And
no, I think that violence, when it is justified dramatically, when it is needed, can be expressed with a sword or with a word or with a gesture or with a scene or with a kiss, by all means. But it is gratuitous, simple, cheap violence that I think is terrible.
You don't resent the charge, do you, at all, that in the majority of films that you've made, you've played yourself?
Well, I want to play myself if myself is what I've been playing. The only thing that I won't take in a part is I will not take a mean or petty scene. I don't mind playing rough, tough, cruel, but not mean or petty.
But what are the qualities in these people that we see on the screen that you portray?
Well, I think there's no nuance. They laugh lustily, hate heartily, drive ahead, usually fighting something bigger than a petty little argument with someone. You know, fighting the elements.
And in all the films that you've made, how many of them do you care to forget, do you reckon, as a rough estimate?
Well, I see I've made about 200. I guess about 260 70. Well, you know, you try every time, but there's a lot of things that have to go into picture to make it worthwhile.
I mean, you've got this this image on the screen of being the rough, tough fellow. I mean, are you really?
No, I'm a very sensitive man.
A poet. Has anybody ever taken a swing at you in a bar?
Yes, and they've hit me.
Could I inquire about their state after they'd hit you?
They cried when they got up.
And it's strange, of course, because in that picture, one or two subsequent ones, I mean, you played the softy, didn't you? What changed you to the sort of tough image that you became associated with?
Champion.
Yes, that's
I
good.
played the part of Champion with Stanley Kramer.
Yes.
Carl Foreman. But I loved the script, and I loved the idea of playing a different kind of role. See, I'd played these weak characters, and suddenly I played Champion, and overnight I thought it was a tough guy.
That's right. Does that lead to any problems in public? I mean, when one imagines...
Well, yes, you know, you forget that, you see, to an actor, I think to most of us, it's very clear what's make-believe and what's reality. But I think very often audiences get carried away, and I remember after Champion one day I walked into a bar, and and people sort of recognized me. I was standing at the bar having a drink, and I saw two tough fellas at a booth there kind of drinking. I couldn't hear what they were saying, sort of like, he doesn't look so tough. And one guy put his glass down, and I saw him walking over toward me, and I thought, oh boy, here it comes. Now what am I going to do? Geez, if I hit him, I'll get in trouble. If he hits me, I may get in more trouble. So as he came over, I slammed my fist down at the bar, and everybody turned around, and I said, anybody in this bar room can lick me. And everybody sort of laughed, and he kind of stopped, and he turned around and went back to his seat.
Did you actually enjoy making westerns? Because, like your great mate James Stewart, you in people's minds, you're associated.
I know. I don't mind that. Actually, I've done about 85 films altogether, and I don't think more than 15 of them were westerns. But I do have a reputation of being a western actor. Westerns, not today, I don't believe, but when they were popular around the world. I mean, Japan loved westerns, and Australia, and Italy. Anyway. And I've done my share, and I guess I've been lucky that some of those were the good ones. Oxbow Incident, and Darling Clementine, and Jesse James. There were some good ones, and they are remembered. I'm not Western, even with my accent. I'm from the Middle West of the States. But cowboy, forget it. I don't like horses. I don't like riding. They have to pay me a lot of money to get me on a horse. I'm scared to death. It's dangerous. You can get killed.
Killed? A man can get killed?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's so disappointing. I mean, that's really shattered my image. That's terrible. That's like letting us know Father Christmas. What about all that gun stuff as well? You ever any good at that?
Well, I mean, if you're playing a part where you're supposed to be a fast draw, you've got to learn. It's just like learning a card trick or something. It's manipulation. And in one particular film, and that was the story, I was a fast draw, and I had to teach a young sheriff to be a fast draw. And they assigned to me, I almost remembered his name. He was an Indian. He was the fastest draw in the world. He was a champion. I'll tell you how fast he was, and I saw him do this. He would put a white board about that big, and it was just white, not a target, not a mark on it, just white. And he put it on the wall about 25 feet away, let's say. And he has a gun with bullets in it, in a holster, and he's got a knife also. He throws the knife and draws, the bullet goes in first, and then the knife goes in the hole the bullet goes in. Anyway, he's the one that taught me to be a fast draw. And it's hard. I mean, you got to hit the back of the trigger with that part of your heel of your hand. to cock it as you hit it. So it pulls it back to cock it, and you pull it out and it's ready to shoot. You can't pull it out and then cock and shoot, you're going to get killed fast. Well, you can also tear the hell out of your hand doing that, and I'd bleed a lot. But I did get so that I could do it fast, and they make you look good. I mean, if you mount a horse awkwardly, they just do it again, or do it from a different angle or something. But you have no idea what it would be like. And I'll tell you a funny story and why I don't like to work with horses. I don't even remember the name of the film, but anyway, there's a posse about to be sent out after the bad guy. And we're in the Western Street, half a dozen or more of us, 10 of us, I guess. And finally, okay, we've had this decided, we'll go. Now, across the street are the 10 horses that are all tied up at the rail. And 10 men have to go over and mount the horses and ride off up the street in one shot. The camera just goes like this. It took 2 days. Because those horses hadn't read the script, and they didn't. And you know, and you could, I've almost got to get up. Can I get up?
Please do, yes, indeed.
You know, your horse there, you got to get the bridle away from the rail, and you get the bridle up there, and then get your foot in the stirrup. And then you swing. But if the horse moves himself over that way, and this is what happened to me, I swung up, but he went that way, and I'm up in the air, and I went right straight down. I mean, a series of things like that can discourage you about working with horses.
You kept the same horse too, didn't you? You had that
same horse, yeah. Same horse for 21 years.
Good Lord. Did anybody else ever have it in the meantime? I mean,
yes, Audie Murphy touted me onto the horse. It belonged to a little girl by the name of Stevie Myers, who was the daughter of an old wrangler for W.S. Hart and all the old boys. And she still is in the horse business for the movies. But she had the horse, and the horse had, his name was Pie, and the horse had hurt some people and was sort of mean. And she didn't even show him to him, but I noticed him over there. And he was a nice-looking, a small horse. I found out he's quarter horse and thoroughbred, actually, is sort of a mixture. And I asked to ride him, and I think it was almost a human thing between us. I think we liked each other.
Yes.
And I got so, I really talked to this horse. I know he understood. I know. I know one night, boy, I'm coming into a town and I have a little bell on the horn of the saddle. And this sort of identifies me. And the bad guys are in the saloon, they're going to get me. And they hear the bell and they say, here he comes. Now what Pie had to do, the camera goes on Pie's legs and then cut to the bad guys in there and goes on as Pie is walking, and then it goes up and there's nobody on Pie and he's walking. And they say, now how long is it going to take you to get Pie to walk? And it was 3 o'clock at night and there were lights and everything. How long is it going to get you take you to get Pie to walk down this long street all by himself? And I said, well, I'll talk to him. And I went back and I said, Pie, now this is tough because you're a horse. But you have to walk straight down there, and I'm not going to be on you, you see. But you have to walk right straight down and clear to the other end of the set. And the fellow says, how long is it going to take? You're going to talk all night? I said, no, I think you'll do it. So that was a dolly shot, you know, with oil. So they rolled the cameras, and Pie did it the first time. It was amazing, amazing. I loved him. I loved the horse.
I think you tell smashing stories.
So much for Hollywood men. Next week we celebrate Hollywood women. And the guest list includes Lauren Bacall, Bette Davis, Shirley MacLaine, Gloria Swanson, Bette Midler, Ingrid Bergman, and two great sex symbols of the 20th century, Raquel Welch and Miss Piggy. Till then, from all of us here, good night. Good night.